Story 1, The Whispering Train of Aokigahara. There is a forest in Japan, at the base of Mount Fuji, called Aokigahara, known across the globe as the Sea of Trees. Dense, disorienting, and unnervingly silent, it has long been steeped in tales of the supernatural. But hidden beneath the thick canopy and folklore of restless spirits lies a more obscure urban legend, one that even locals whisper about with hushed fear: the Whispering Train. They say, on mist-heavy nights, deep within the forest's forgotten trails, you can hear the faint echo of a steam engine that no longer exists. But this train doesn't run on tracks, and those who follow its sound are never seen again. Let me tell you the story of Mayuko, a graduate student in folklore studies who went into Aokigahara chasing myth. And found something far worse. Mayuko Tanaka was 27. Smart. Analytical. Skeptical. She didn't believe in ghosts, she believed in psychological archetypes, in collective trauma, in the way old stories morph into warnings. So when her thesis advisor encouraged her to investigate rural legends, she chose Aokigahara, not for the spirits, but for a lesser-known tale that she found in a faded forum post from 2008, "If you hear the whistle in the woods, don't follow. It's not a train. It just wants you to think it is." The post had no replies, no context. But something about it unnerved her. She made her way to the forest in late October, peak season for mists and quiet. Her plan was to stay in the nearby village and make daily treks into the forest, documenting regional myths and interviews. Day 1 passed uneventfully, just interviews with locals, most of whom dismissed the Whispering Train as nonsense. One elderly man, however, seemed visibly shaken when she mentioned it. He wouldn't give his name. Just said, there used to be tracks, long ago. But they were never real. Never built. Never touched. Just seen. Always curving through the fog. Sometimes with lights. Sometimes with silhouettes in the windows. That night, Mayuko reviewed the interview in her inn's tatami room, the heater humming softly. She fell asleep with her headphones on, the man's voice echoing in her dreams. On the third day, Mayuko decided to follow the northwestern path, an older, less traveled route used decades ago by monks. The forest grew darker here. The moss thicker. Her GPS lost signal within 10 minutes. At 2:47 p.m. she began to hear it. A whistle. Faint. Distant. But unmistakable. At first, she smiled. Was someone playing a trick? She recorded the sound, marking the time in her field journal. Then came the rumbling. Not loud. More like vibration in the bones. Like something impossibly large moving beneath her feet. And then, the trees began to shift. Slowly. Subtly, as though making way for something. Through the fog, she saw it. A train. Or something like one. It had no tracks. No wheels. Its shape was outlined in shifting black smoke, lit from within by dull, flickering lamps. The windows were opaque, like old mirrors, and behind them, she saw faces. Dozens. Staring. Not at her, through her. The train passed her without sound, and she found herself walking alongside it without deciding to. Her legs felt light. Her thoughts muffled. The trees around her were gone, replaced by a dark corridor of infinite mist. Inside her head, a voice whispered, not in Japanese, but in something older. Primal. The words meant nothing. And everything. They said, "You boarded long ago." Mayuko blinked. She was inside. seated, moving. The world outside the fogged window was a blur of green and gray and shadow. Across from her sat an old man, with empty eye sockets and a mouth sewn shut. He handed her a notebook. It was her own. The pages were filled with frantic writing she didn't remember making. The train feeds on attention, on story, on thought. If you see it, it already has you. You were part of its myth the moment you believed in it. She turned to the window again. Outside, another version of her was walking alongside the train, wide-eyed and hypnotized. She screamed. But no sound came out. Mayuko was found 3 days later, unconscious near the northwest edge of the forest. Her equipment was gone. Her phone, dead. Her journal, soaked and unreadable. She didn't speak for weeks. When she finally recovered enough to return to Tokyo, she dropped out of her program. She changed her name. Refused interviews. But one thing stuck with her. Every so often, at night, in the silence between sleep and wake, she hears it, a whistle. And in that breathless moment before dawn, her body remembers the rhythm of the train. Some say the whispering train only appears to those who need to disappear. Others believe it's not a spirit, but a memory, of something old and hungry and patient. What remains undeniable, is the consistency. Dozens of reports, stretching back over a century, each describing a train that doesn't run on tracks, doesn't belong to time, and offers no return trip. And the legend is spreading. Online forums are full of new sightings, across forests in other countries now, too. The Black Forest in Germany. The Pine Barrens in the US. The taiga in Siberia. And always the same phrase whispered, "You boarded long ago." Be careful what legends you give your attention to. In some places, Story 2, The Smiling God of Bogota. High in the Andes, nestled between the peaks and the clouds, Bogota, Colombia, pulses with history, indigenous spirits, Spanish cathedrals, and buried secrets. But among its twisting alleyways and graffiti-covered ruins, one legend stands apart from the rest. They call it El Dios que Sonríe, the Smiling God. A faceless entity worshipped in hushed tones by a forgotten cult, said to offer blessings in exchange for something simple, a smile at the wrong moment. It may sound absurd. But for those who've lived it, it's anything but a joke. Let me tell you about Luis Herrera, a 35-year-old street artist whose smile, captured in a photo, opened a door that should have stayed closed. Luis was well known in Bogotá's La Candelaria district. Charismatic, bright-eyed, passionate about urban decay and what he called visual resurrection. His murals covered abandoned buildings with images of masked figures, forgotten saints, and sorrowful angels. In September 2021, Luis began a new project, an underground gallery hidden beneath a derelict colonial theater. With permission from the owner and a few like-minded friends, he descended into the dark, mildewed tunnels beneath the city. That's where he found the altar. It was small, made of cracked stone and blackened with soot. A circle of withered flowers surrounded a central figure, crudely carved from bone and wood, grinning ear to ear with no eyes, no nose, just an impossibly wide mouth etched into a stretched, featureless head. Around it were offerings, decayed fruit, worn dolls, pages torn from books, each page marked with the same phrase, Dios mío, te sonrío. Aceptame. My God, I smile at you. Accept me. Luis was amused. He snapped a picture of the altar, standing beside it, smirking playfully. That photo, posted on his Instagram the same night, was the last thing anyone would later find normal. Because after that, things began to twist. The first night, Luis dreamed of mirrors. Endless corridors of mirrors with his own face repeating, smiling, then frowning, then screaming. Each reflection slightly wrong. Each version of him more hollow. The next morning, a strange sensation lingered, his jaw felt tight. Like he'd been grinning in his sleep. His cheeks sore. Lips slightly cracked. He laughed it off. But people started noticing strange things in his photos. In the selfie with the altar, the background seemed to ripple. The mural behind him subtly shifted. And in the shadows behind the statue, something was visible. Barely, a set of teeth, suspended in the darkness. Then, the hallucinations began. One night, while painting alone, Luis turned and saw himself standing at the far end of the room. But that version of him didn't move. Just smiled. Widely. Endlessly. Unblinking. The lights flickered. When they came back on, the figure was gone, but the smile remained. Scratched into the cement wall behind him. He told friends, but no one believed him. They thought it was performance art. A prank. Even when he stopped sleeping. Even when he started whispering to himself. One friend caught a video of Luis staring into a mirror for over an hour, not blinking once, just slowly. Grinning. His art shifted. Murals began showing the same featureless figure, wide-mouthed, eyeless, surrounded by screaming silhouettes. His final piece was painted in the underground theater, directly above the altar. It was titled, "He Smiles Through Me." Luis vanished 2 days later. Police found his belongings, but no signs of struggle. His paintbrushes were laid neatly beside the altar. On the cracked wall behind it, scrawled in black ink, "I smiled." He smiled back. Local rumors exploded. Some claimed they'd seen Luis on the rooftops days after, staring silently at the city with a painted grin on his face. Others swore they saw him in reflective surfaces, mirrors, puddles, window glass, always in the corner of the eye, always grinning. One tourist took a photo near the old theater and later discovered a blurry figure behind her. When enhanced, the face wasn't human, just a white oval with a massive black smile carved across it. Since then, others have gone missing. Always after visiting the altar. Always after smiling. Authorities closed the site. But believers, old and new, still leave offerings. Smiling masks. Selfies. Even teeth. They say the smiling God feeds on attention. On performance. That it has no name of its own, only what we give it. And the more people believe, the more it becomes real. As one survivor whispered during an interview, it wears your happiness like a mask. And when you're alone, it tries it on. So next time you're caught smiling at something strange, in a dream, a photo, a reflection, ask yourself, who smiled first? Story 3, The Red Veil of Rajasthan. In the heart of India's desert state of Rajasthan, where ancient forts cast long shadows and forgotten palaces whisper secrets to the sand, there is a tale seldom told aloud. It is the legend of Lail Parda, the Red Veil. A spirit? A curse? A remnant of royal betrayal? No one agrees. But locals agree on one thing: if you see the red veil in a mirror, don't look away. Let me tell you the story of Anya Mera, a travel vlogger whose fascination with the occult led her to a palace never listed on any map. A palace whispered about in old dialects. A palace buried by shame. Anya was gaining traction on YouTube for her series Haunted Havens, where she explored allegedly cursed sites across South Asia. Bold, witty, rational. She thrived on exposing local legends as tricks of architecture and suggestion. Then came an anonymous tip, a private message containing just 4 words and coordinates on the outskirts of Jaisalmer. Ask about the Red Veil. The coordinates led to an isolated dune, where a crumbling structure jutted from the sand. Locals refused to go near it. Even her guide refused to speak the name. That place was erased, he muttered. They tried to bury the shame. She pressed further and pieced together fragments: a royal daughter, a forbidden love, a betrayal, and the punishment, being sealed in her bridal veil, left to die in her reflection, cursed to appear only to those who looked into mirrors in forgotten places. Naturally, Anya was intrigued. She entered the ruin alone, camera in hand, narrating with her signature confidence. But something felt off. No birds. No wind. Even the sand outside had gone still. Inside the palace, the air was thick, like syrup in her lungs. Every room was cloaked in layers of red dust. And mirrors. So many mirrors, cracked, blackened, half buried in the walls. She recorded it all. Until she entered the bridal chamber. There, on the far wall, hung an unbroken mirror. Clean. Gleaming. Untouched by time. She raised her camera. And saw her own reflection, except, it wasn't. Story 3, The Red Veil of Rajasthan. In the heart of India's desert state of Rajasthan, where ancient forts cast long shadows and forgotten palaces whisper secrets to the sand, there is a tale seldom told aloud. It is the legend of Lail Parda, the Red Veil. A spirit, a curse, a remnant of royal betrayal. No one agrees. But locals agree on one thing: if you see the red veil in a mirror, don't look away. Let me tell you the story of Anya Mehra, a travel vlogger whose fascination with the occult led her to a palace never listed on any map. A palace whispered about in old dialects. A palace buried by shame. Anya was gaining traction on YouTube for her series Haunted Havens, where she explored allegedly cursed sites across South Asia. Bold, witty, rational. She thrived on exposing local legends as tricks of architecture and suggestion. Then came an anonymous tip, a private message containing just 4 words and coordinates on the outskirts of Jaisalmer. Ask about the Red Veil. The coordinates led to an isolated dune, where a crumbling structure jutted from the sand. Locals refused to go near it. Even her guide refused to speak the name. That place was erased, he muttered. They tried to bury the shame. She pressed further and pieced together fragments: a royal daughter, a forbidden love, a betrayal, and the punishment, being sealed in her bridal veil, left to die in her reflection, cursed to appear only to those who looked into mirrors in forgotten places. Naturally, Anya was intrigued. She entered the ruin alone, camera in hand, narrating with her signature confidence. But something felt off. No birds. No wind. Even the sand outside had gone still. Inside the palace, the air was thick, like syrup in her lungs. Every room was cloaked in layers of red dust. And mirrors. So many mirrors, cracked, blackened, half buried in the walls. She recorded it all. Until she entered the bridal chamber. There, on the far wall, hung an unbroken mirror. Clean. Gleaming. Untouched by time. She raised her camera. And saw her own reflection, except, it wasn't.